Right, folks, and we're back. 845-1100 is the number to call. This update in about I-65. That truck basically, there's a truck that's broken down around 61st. When you get northbound on I-65, there's a construction zone and the traffic splits. So the inside lane is moving. The outside lane is blocked by the broken down truck. Last word is that the traffic is backed up to about 101st going toward 109th. So you want to avoid that area. Some alternatives. If you're local, you probably want to consider taking Broadway. If you're on the highway, get into that inside lane, and just hope that there's some people that when they get to the north end there by 8094 know what they're doing, because I've had a couple of people who basically drove across 3 lanes of traffic and didn't have a clue. So if you're trying to get northbound on I-65, you're going to have some headaches this morning. Otherwise, it looks pretty good in the area. But again, the last couple of callers were talking about the situation with these demonstrations. And look, whether you're pro-immigration, anti-immigration, regardless, we've said before on this radio station, and not just on my show, police officers have a job to do, right? They have a job to do. Don't blame the police, whether they're ICE, whether they're FBI, federal marshals, state police, local police. Don't blame the police, all right? They're doing their jobs. These are men and women who put their uniforms on every day to go out and protect the rest of us. And they deserve our respect. They deserve to be treated in the most safe manner possible. Don't take your opinions out on them. They didn't make the decision. Somebody else made the decision. You don't like what they did. You don't like what they're doing. You have the right to protest. You have the right to voice your opinion and call in here and voice your opinion. But don't take it out on law enforcement. And that's really where the conversation has been this morning. I have to say I'm a little shocked by the lack of prosecution of some of these individuals. I was watching one. There's one in particular, and he probably was a high school baseball player because the way he throws the brick at the van in the one video, and this is at the cannabis farm in California, he looks like he's actually on a pitcher's mound, and he steps into it, and his release just tells me that he's probably got some experience and probably has some talent, but he's using it in the wrong way. And once again, if you don't like the situation, you have the right to protest in this country. By the way, I've said this before. We allow about 1.5 million people in this country every year. We have a population approaching 340 million. Maybe it's time to look at the levels of immigration that we allow legally. Maybe we do need to allow more immigrants. We used to take in more people back in the 1920s, for example. So maybe we need to consider the legal numbers that we allow in this nation. Maybe we also need to reform our immigration process. There's a lot to be said about a process that was designed in 1986, and it's 2025. So maybe it's time to update all of that, and for Republicans and Democrats to work together in Congress instead of basically just sitting there lobbying comments across the aisle at each other. Maybe they need to work together and put together a comprehensive immigration reform act, like the one that was passed in 1986. So, it's just time. It's just time, I think, to update some of these laws. We elect people to go to Congress. We elect a congressman. In this case, if you're in Northwest Indiana, it's Frank Mervan. We elect 2 senators to represent us in the U.S. Senate. And I've got to ask the question, how much legislation are our representatives introducing on our behalf? Not special interests, but on our behalf, the things that we want to see done. They all hold, senators and congressmen hold these, town hall meetings. But when you go to the town hall meetings, it's largely a predetermined agenda. And maybe what we need to have is really an open forum where they come in and they say, I'm here to listen. You tell me. And we start to craft legislation to make improvements to this nation's operations. I mean, we have a massive economy and a massive federal government, and the federal government is getting so expensive that before you know it, the interest rates on our deficit, on our overspending, will eclipse every single portion of the federal budget. We're already rivaling the cost of defense. To me, that's just egregious. We're basically pushing and kicking the can down the street to the next generation. So the Matts and the Joes and the Adrianas that are on this and Kempers that are on this radio station that are doing the work behind the scenes, they're going to have to pay a massive, massive debt because of what we're doing right now. And it seems to me like we need to reorganize and restructure. I know plenty of federal employees, and I know that a lot of them were worried over the last couple of months with the so-called Doge initiative. And I was never a real fan of the way Doge was handled. I'm a fan of the idea of looking at government and seeing how you can make it more efficient. That federal employees are not untouchable. Federal employees do, in fact, have to provide services and performance so that they can basically meet the expectations of taxpayers. But at the same time, I think Doge was not handled well because they were sending outsiders in to different departments, and the outsiders were looking at things and saying, okay, we can cut here, we can cut there. And it's just as bad as some of the studies that have been done over the years in the private sector where they send these outsiders in, these so-called efficiency experts, and they come in and they tell you that you're not doing your job correctly without asking you, how do you do your job? All right. How you do your job is something that you know exclusively. And if you want to bring efficiency to the federal government, you need to sit down and ask employees. A lot of employees in the federal government have told me over the years how inefficient things are, how they're using computer programs and they're using software that is just so out of date. We heard about what's going on with federal employees just wanting to retire, and that they have to still fill out everything in writing rather than on a computer, and how there's a limit to the number of people that can retire in any given month because it has to be taken down and taken down into Iron Mountain and in Pennsylvania and stored, and it's all done on paper. So there's a lot of inefficiencies, and I think that if you really want to improve government and the efficiency that we have, you need to start asking some of those employees, some of those people that are out there that are basically on the front line that see the problems that exist, and asking them what they need to, what we need to do to make government more efficient. So, just some food for thought this morning. While we're waiting, we're going to get to the phone lines in just a minute. I'm just waiting for Joe, who's running a quick errand here, to get back into his seat. We have a couple of big events coming up this week and next week in Northwest Indiana. Obviously, Festival of the Lakes starts today. They have a concert with John Fogerty tonight. It runs through Sunday. We also have Greek Fest, which is coming up this weekend, and at 7:30 we've got somebody calling in, Patricia, who's going to talk about Greek Fest. So, and then of course next week is a festival that I know extremely well, which is Pierogi Fest, and this will be my last year as the chairman. So it'll be bittersweet to organize one last Pierogi Fest, but again, I turned 65 in a couple of days, and it's just time for me to step back and let somebody else do it. So, Joe, do we have any callers? Or nope, we're not getting any callers right now. So, I know a lot of people are like, sure, Dabertin, you're not really stepping down, but I am. It's time, and it's been a great run, 31 years. As in running the festival. Of course, I'm one of the people that started the festival. I solely started the parade. The parade actually is 1 year older than the festival itself, but who's counting other than me? But it's been a great event and a great run. But it's time to let others step up and take it on. And so understand why I'm stepping back. We have a caller, so 845-1100, and you are on the air. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I have two quick questions for you, and
Sure.
maybe you can answer these for me. It seems that you know a lot of attorneys. And I think your brother's an attorney. Your son's going to be an attorney.
I have several brothers that went into law, yes, and my son will be taking the bar at the end of this month. So yes.
Okay, great. I have a question. And I haven't been able to locate this information, and maybe somebody in the legal profession can find this answer for me. It's in regards to our governor wanting to turn our highways into toll roads, okay? Now, my thought is this. Those roads are our roads. They're yours, mine, everyone else. They're not the governor's roads. They're not state roads. Those are our roads. We own those roads. I've paid for those roads throughout my lifetime. So have you and the rest of our listeners. I don't see where the governor thinks that he could just what law allows him to turn our roads into toll roads.
So,
now, I can see if he was going to build a brand new road, brand new highway, like say we were going to run that extension that they called for off 65 to meet, 355. They were going to build a brand new road and turn it into a toll road. I could understand that, but where they get the legal right to take my road from me and turn it into a toll road.
So there's a couple of things at play, and I don't know that it necessarily takes an attorney to explain this, but the interstate system is where Governor Braun is talking about, like I-65. Okay, the interstate
Correct.
system was basically largely paid for by the federal government. I think they paid 80%. The states paid 20% to build the interstate system, and there remains through this day federal dollars that are allocated for maintenance of these roads. However,
Correct.
the state has to maintain them. They have to plow them. They have to clean them. They have to do repairs as well. If you remember, under the last administration, the Biden administration, they had they had a very large bill. I think it was $800 billion to spend on replacing bridges and roads in the United States. And it was something that, by the way, the Biden administration did right because it was necessary to do. So,
I agree.
My understanding, though, is that the state has to petition the federal government for permission to turn those into toll roads. And there's only been one example so far, which is the entry fee that they had passed in New York, which the Trump administration struck down and denied. If you remember earlier this year, there was a bunch of stories about how they were charging a daily access fee to downtown to Manhattan. And
no, I was not aware of that. But go ahead.
It was like a $10 a day fee. So, but the thing is to get into Manhattan, you were on federal highways. And the Trump administration, it was actually Donald Trump who said, no, we're not doing that to people. We're not charging a fee for them to use federal highways. So the precedent is that the federal government has not allowed this whole concept of allowing states to turn these roads into toll systems. But I will say that there is there's a possibility. So that what they have to do is have to get permission from the federal government, and they have to pass a state law. So it's possible because it's considered public property that the state maintains. And I think that the original Interstate Highway Act, which was during the Eisenhower administration, it's called the Eisenhower Interstate System. I believe that they basically turned those roads over to the state government after they were built. So technically, it is state property.
Right. Well, yes, I understand that, but the state property is what I'm trying to say. That's my property. I mean, the state. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's kind of like arguing that you own the parks in your community or you own City Hall, but they get to set restrictions on those parks and they get to set restrictions on access to City Hall and what days of the week and what hours it's open. So I think you have to treat it the same way that you would treat, say, a piece of park property or a road in your own community. If the city or town in which you live in say we need to close that road, they have the right to close it. They don't have to get your permission. And I think it's the same. It's kind of the same basis that they're using. But I agree with you. I think that Mike Braun is making too many trips to Michigan or Illinois and picking up tainted gummy bears to believe that you're going
Yes.
to turn the interstate system in Indiana into a toll road system. I think is just plain nuts. I brought this
Yes.
up before, and I was looking at my automobile insurance. I pay a higher fee for my license plates and registration for my car, which is a 2017 Lincoln MKZ hybrid, because it's a hybrid and it gets better gas mileage. So I actually have to pay more money because the state says, well, because you're driving an efficient car, one that gets higher gas mileage, we get less money from you at the pump, and therefore
Correct.
you have to pay a higher fee for registration fees. To me, that's insane. I'm doing what everybody says we need to do. We need to be more efficient.
Yes.
We need
Yes.
we need to preserve our environment and do all these things. Okay, so I'm driving a hybrid, and then I get taxed extra for it. Just crazy. Just totally
Yeah,
crazy.
I would agree with you 100% on that one too. Yes.
Hey, thanks so much for calling.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, 845-1100. We have another caller, and then we'll be going to a break shortly. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Tom.
Good morning.
In regard to what you're talking about the debt, I really believe, from everything I've seen, that these people, these elected officials in our government, I don't think anybody serious, any serious people would allow these people to make any kind of decisions on what happens with our spending, our debt, anything like that. I think that these decisions are being made a lot higher up on the food chain than that. I think that all these elected officials have some kind of patron. They've got somebody that they have to account for too, and I think that the decision's been made a long time ago that we're going to go through some kind of a reset. The dollar's dead. I think the plan is to actually run it up on the rocks, and then we're going to have some kind of massive reset to our economic system. More than likely, some kind of a government-backed cryptocurrency, electronic money. And I think that's what all these data centers and all this stuff going in are designed to do. It's going to be total control of the individual. It's going to be some kind of credit system that is actually going to be rolled out because it's too far gone. Like you say, $37 trillion, and the last time I think before Biden left office, I think we're at another trillion every 3 months. So it's just the math doesn't add up at all. I do not believe anybody with any common sense, I think, can come to any other conclusion except that the master plan is that we're going to have a completely different economic system within a few short years.
Well, do you realize, people, there's so many places now that don't take cash, for example. You go to a ballpark, they don't take cash, right?
I just heard a thing the other day that in China, the only people that are using cash in China are old people, senior citizens.
It's kind of the same in the United States now. So there's very little cash transactions. And what you have to realize is that everybody's using credit cards and debit cards, which is great. The convenience is there. But as you use those cards, basically what's happening is somebody knows exactly your whereabouts, knowing what you're buying, when you're buying it, what you're spending it on. It was Sam Walton who really pioneered that approach. So he used to watch basically what people bought, say, at the Hammond Walmart and said, okay, we need to restock those items, more so than maybe the Walmart that is down in Indianapolis. And that was the start of this. But to me, it's very scary because you hear about cases, every so often there's a legal case that, say a murder case, and they track the person's whereabouts by using their credit cards and their debit cards. Big business is tracking everything you do. They know everything you're buying. They know when you're spending it, where you're spending it at. To me, that's frightening. There's no privacy when it comes to spending money anymore. And even if you spend cash, they know where you're spending it because they know that when you took the money out of the ATM, and they usually have surveillance cameras that show where you're at spending that cash.
Right. Yeah, and and the thing of it is there's no pushback on this. I mean, the whole, like you say, it's global. The whole world is headed in this direction. Nobody is addressing this. Nobody in our government, even on the conservative side, is actually addressing this crisis that's coming. And that's why I have to conclude that the die's already cast. It's already a done deal. They're building these data centers as fast as they can get them up. And like you say, the whole thing with the only real serious application of something like that is going to be surveillance, complete surveillance of the individual. It's biblical, really. I know it sounds like some kind of whacked out conspiracy theory, but what other conclusions can you come to when you've got this massive debt? They're printing dollars. Now they got the BRICS competition with the West, where people are starting to refuse to use the dollar. The dollar, it's going to get to the point shortly, but where it could collapse overnight, the value of it, because of international trade.
Well, I think the dollar is going to be staying pretty strong because of Brentwood Accords, but.
Well, the Brentwood Accords, yeah, but the problem with that is that was the standard after World War II for international trade. But now you've got something like I think the BRICS are bragging they've got 40% control of global trade as it is right now. It's a whole different system outside the dollar, and now with the other worry is that with this, I know Trump has a big move to try to cut interest rates. But the worry is if they start cutting these interest rates on the bonds that are floated to run this government, that people overseas are going to dump them because they won't be able to get the return they want on them, which is going to force more movement away from the dollar.
Well, I think that when you talk about the value of the dollar and its impact on the global economy, it's kind of a separate issue from what we're talking about as far as privacy in America. I mean, to me, it's frightening that everybody knows, I shouldn't say everybody, but they know exactly what you're doing. I'm looking at something right here. I'm sorry. It was about a traffic update. So to me, it's frightening, though, that big business knows exactly what you're buying, when you're buying it. Take a look at, use your phone sometime and search something, okay? Search any topic and then go to social media and see if you don't get an ad about it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, right, yeah. Well, and it's not just big business, it's government.
They know everything you're doing, when you're doing it, what you're thinking, what you're looking at, what you're considering doing. We're already in that mode.
And we've got a semi-socialistic government now. It gets to the point to where in the future, real easily, like you say, you got complete data tracking on everybody. And when we have like socialized medicine, and it turns out you're 40 pounds overweight and diabetic, and that all of a sudden when you go down to buy your beer and your pop and everything, it's not your plastic card's not going to work. And to think that they wouldn't do that, to me, that's Pollyannish.
Well, data is knowledge, and knowledge is gold. And they have knowledge of everything you do, and when you do it, and where you do it, and how you do it. And it's only going to get more intense in the near future. So, hey, thanks so much for calling. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay, Tom.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's take a quick break. You're listening to The Morning Call on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, the TuneIn app, and JED TV. We'll be right back after these commercial announcements. And then joining us is the three gentlemen that last week took over the focus of this show. So we're going to have Trucker Mike and MX and Dave Gehrman in here in just a few minutes. So keep it tuned right here. We've got